Hi, everyone, and welcome to Second Breakfast. It's a Wednesday, and we're taking a little break from the Project Melway experience, not for the week. In fact, come back tomorrow because we're going to talk about Lethal Weapon 2. The magic is back.
The magic is back.
Right. And so Project Melway has been moved to Thursday this week because we have a very, very special episode of Second Breakfast today. First of all, before we go any further, my name is Philip Duvall, and joining me is my dear friend and co-host, Andy Roth. Say hi, Andy.
Hello, everyone.
Ha-ha!
Ha-ha!
We have a very interesting thing going on today, don't we, Andy?
Crossover episode!
Crossover! When I was a kid, some of my favorite things ever were when two shows crossed over into each other, though I can't actually think of any examples of it right now.
Nope, not one.
But whenever it happened, I was like, is this real?
It's like if He-Man and the GoBots faced off against G.I. Joe and the Transformers.
Who would you root for in that?
The Thundercats.
That wasn't a real answer?
Probably
Nice.
He-Man. I was big into He-Man.
I would clearly go for G.I. Joe and Transformers, but mainly because you actually pitted the Transformers against the GoBots.
That's true. That was a bad call on my part.
It's okay, though.
was-
It's okay. If you had said He-Man Coca-Cola, I mean, He-Man Coca-Cola over Pepsi is the thing, right? That's what I was just thinking of.
Indeed.
If you said He-Man Transformers versus GoBots G.I. Joe, that would have been
Well,
that would have been unfair.
I think the
That would have been like
lesson
the
here
Harlem
is
Globetrotters
GoBots
versus you and me.
Right. I think the lesson here is the GoBots always lose.
Crossovers are great. We're melding our show today, though you don't see anybody else on our show. But we have planned our show to coincide with another podcast, a podcast of my dear friend Tyler Holland and his buddy Dave. They have a podcast called Tadpog, which stands for Tyler and Dave Play Old Games, and it's Tyler.
Wait. Tad. Yep, that works.
It
That
works!
That totally works. That totally works.
Play old games. It's Tyler and Dave, these two old buddies, and one of them's a friend of mine, and they play old video games, like from Nintendo or Super Nintendo, and then they review them and they talk about them. And it's a phenomenal podcast. I really enjoy it. Tyler and I, his wife and I went to grad school together, and Tyler is one of those guys. I remember going to I went to their apartment, and his DVD collection, which was all TV shows, by the way.
Awesome.
Oh, you'd love him. You'd love him.
Awesome.
Because it's all the stuff you like. It's all the Buffy and the stuff that I'm not a big fan of, but also other stuff
Tyler.
that I did like.
Well
I
done.
believe he had like the collected works of Everybody Loves Raymond. He had everything. And I'd go there and I would just look at it and be like, it's so pretty. Because he had it so well assembled and displayed. And they had a gloriously sized TV. I think bigger than mine, but if not, close to it. We both had the biggest TVs, and which showed where our priorities were. And he had all the fun games. And I don't have any video games consoles because. Are you ready for this, Andy?
What's that?
My wife won't let me. And I understand that because she wants to see my face, and the reality is that when I'm not a huge video game fan, but I grew up with video games. I had Nintendo, Super Nintendo, TurboGrafx 16, and I think some other. And I had a Game Boy, and I would play all these games, and I'd be the kind of person who, when I get onto a game, I'd play obsessively. And my wife was like, "I want no part of that." And then I got a PS2 when I was in college.
Yep. And my story for you, you know what I'm going to say, is
Tell it.
Heavenly Sword.
So
So, viewers, listeners, Second Breakfast Nation, as you know, I have had on more than one occasion a film festival at my apartment house abode called Zombie Palooza.
yes.
And Phil, being the incredible friend and zombie movie lover that he is,
I'm only a zombie lover because of what happened there. I wasn't planning on it.
hey, man, it's
Changed
cool.
my life forever.
And I couldn't be happier that I did so. He came to visit me when I was living in Queens, and my roommate at the time had a PlayStation 3. And he had just gotten it because it had only come out a few months earlier. And he had the game Heavenly Sword, which is basically like mash the button and kill 800,000 people at once. Tell me I'm wrong.
It had that one level where you shot the arrow and then guided the arrow.
No, you're right.
Oh.
And unless we were watching a zombie movie and discussing it, or eating and he needed both of his hands, I'm not sure Phil and I had a conversation once he discovered Heavenly Sword until he beat it.
Well, we had conversations. It was stuff like, what do I do to win this level, Andy? How do I beat this? What do I do with this, Andy? And I like that you point out that I needed both hands to eat, because I guarantee you if you and I were together for some party or for some sort of festival, we weren't eating anything that required utensils.
It's true. That's true.
I had a goal when I was in college, by the way. I had a goal where I was trying to I wanted to never use utensils other than a spoon for my meals. And at our dining hall, you could totally do it.
Nice. Well, right, because you could always choose to have like a gigantic bowl of cereal.
Which I did so often.
So often.
My roommate and I, we would take, because they had the big bags, we would take the big bags and stick them in our book bag, and then I brought my Brita filter. We would bring our Brita pitcher,
right?
Take out the filter, and then fill it with milk.
Awesome.
And one time I was doing that, and like the lady walked over, the dining hall lady looked at me. This is because you had to pull the lever up, and the milk was pouring in. And I looked over to her, and I was like, "Hey, how's it going?" And she was just like,
I think there was a time in college, because I had not had this cereal before college, and then I discovered it, and I went insane. I think, you know how you're like 90% water or whatever your body is? I think I was like 7% French Toast Crunch. Like a good 7 or 8%. I was just like, because they had the huge bowls, right?
Yeah.
Huge bowls. And I'd just be like, all of France, crunch. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Enough. We have to talk about college another time. I love video games, but I never play them anymore.
Sure.
But what I love, and you love video games, and you play them from time to time, still or no?
I mean, not really. Still, I don't really like phone games. I'm not crazy about them. I mean, I have like Solitaire, but the whole like Angry Birds.
I play Yahtzee all the time.
Nice. Because I don't consider like Words with Friends. That's not like a phone video game. You know what I mean? No. But like,
that's war.
Nice. I am the guy who played copious hours of Mario Kart 64. You know what I mean? Like that was me.
That was the first time I remember, not first time, but I skipped a class. Tony, one of our theater guys, Tony. I skipped a class to play Mario Kart 64 with my buddy Sebastian, and that's how we became buddies. Anyways, let me tell you something. So you and I don't play as much video games as we used to. Tyler and Dave play lots of video games, and they play them across different media. So they have Wii, and I know he has Wii, and I know he has I think he has PS3 and Xbox, and then of course their big thing right now is they're playing the games of our childhood, Nintendo and Super Nintendo,
which is so awesome. I love this idea,
and I love listening to them talk about it, because the funny thing is I've listened to a couple of their shows, and I've looked at the games they play, but even with the games they've played that are our generation, I've never played any of the games they've talked about. And it doesn't matter when you're listening to it.
Sure.
I'd like to think on our show we talk about movies that even if you've never seen the movie, you can enjoy the conversation. I hope. That's definitely the case with these guys. The way that they talk about movies, it's so much fun. And I'm jealous of them because it sounds like they're in the same room together, which we are not.
That's true.
And I'm jealous of them for not being in the same room together. We're not in the same room together. More I want to say about this. They make a point. Okay, so anyways, Tyler, my friend, and his wife is a dear friend of mine and a wonderful person. He's not as good as she is, because she's amazing. But he's a really good guy and he's a chef. There's nothing he can't do, really. He hit me up the other day and said, I want to do a crossover with your show. And I said, that sounds great. How do we do that? And he says, I want you to review a movie, and we're going to play the video game of the movie. And I was like, this is a genius idea.
And I'm like, what could possibly go wrong? This sounds great.
You ready for what could go wrong? The movie we had to watch was Batman and Robin. Which he had no way of knowing this, Andy. And we'll talk about the movie in a second. We're not going to talk about the movie yet. Except to say that for the longest time, And even if you ask me, like in the last few years, but really for the longest time with like tip of my tongue, if someone said to me, "What's the worst movie of all time?" I would have said Batman and Robin. I hated the movie so deeply, and so when he said Batman and Robin, I was like, "You." I was like the dad in Christmas Story, Friggle, Friggle, or like Joe Pesci in Home Alone, Friggle, Friggle, Friggle.
We couldn't have gotten the big budget, I don't know, Castlevania movie that they've been talking
Why
about,
haven't
or
they made a Castlevania movie yet?
I don't know, or like
So
the
I agree
Mario
with
Kart
you.
movie that I'm sure someone in Korea has made.
I agree
Anything
with
other
it.
than this.
I agreed to do this, and you agreed to do this, and honestly, I want you to know this. I did this more as a testament to my friendship with Tyler, because I hate this movie so much. I really don't know why you did it at all. I know why I
I
did
would
it.
like to point out, if that is the case, and Tyler, I am sure I love your guys' podcast, Tyler,
So
Dave.
good.
You sound like wonderful people, but I don't know you. So, Phil, if that is the case, I am nothing but collateral damage here.
You are. You're like a pawn in this dirty little game. Yeah, I sacrificed you to the knight. Like I didn't even sacrifice you to the queen.
Oh,
Let me
oh,
tell you something. I'm gonna
tell
make
me.
this so much worse.
You're
Guys,
going to?
Tyler and Dave's show is so good. It's so much fun. Oh, I have to mention this. They make a big point of mentioning when they're talking about our show that we are PG. Although I might say we are PG, we might even be PG-13 from time to time, but we are basically, we work really carefully. They're not.
It's true.
They're rated R. They say whatever they want to say. I'm jealous of them. I wish.
true.
But what I think is really funny is you and I are off screen, not always PG. But you and I, the way you and I are in general, if you and I were going to put together a show, the idea of it being PG was never going to be in question. I don't know why that is, but it's true.
Yeah.
Um,
I wish our show had more nipples. I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna lie about that.
be careful what you wish for, Andy. I think that if I spoke in public the way that if I used the language, that's a whole other conversation. I don't even want to get into
There's
that.
no turning back.
I don't want to get into that. I have a job that I have to maintain some level of decorum based on my career path. But I will say this. If you're weak of ear, but if you're the kind of person who is interested in listening to podcasts about people playing video games from the 80s and 90s, you're probably not worried about language. You're probably not a Puritan.
Indeed.
I'm about to make you hate these guys so much. They go play this video, watch this movie. We're going to play the video game Batman and Robin.
Mm-hmm.
I looked up the video game after watching the movie again.
Okay.
It's not based on the movie.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay, here's the deal. Listening to their podcast, here is the thought process. It was very similar to the thought process I had with my least favorite, now this is not to say worst, least favorite movie-going experience of my life, M. Night Shyamalan's The Village, okay? I started to see too many commercials for it, and I was like, I think I know what the twist is.
But it can't be.
That can't be. That
It
can't be.
was.
And it totally was. Listening to their podcast, I was like, this doesn't necessarily sound like it's based on the movie, but I'm sure that they wouldn't do that to us.
They did that to us.
Tyler? Dave?
And the worst part is, no, it gets worse.
Oh my god. Okay.
Well, listen to the podcast. Do they enjoy playing the game?
I mean, yeah.
Apparently the game is a blast. So we watched the worst movie of our lifetime so that they could play a game they enjoyed thoroughly. There is literally nothing equal in this exchange.
Oh my goodness.
Here's what I sentence you to, Tyler and Dave. For our next crossover, Andy and I are going to watch The Goonies, and you're going to play the Goonies Nintendo game.
Oh.
Because the Goonies Nintendo game is not a good game.
No. I barely remember
In fact,
it.
I think it's called Goonies 2. I think
Yes.
it's like
It is.
a sequel in video game
Yes.
form. I couldn't be more furious. So we decided to do this crossover, and I'm going to make sure we put a link to their beautiful podcast. And I'd like to tell you they're lovely guys, but apparently they're terrible people.
Apparently they are terrible people.
Terribly entertaining. Huh? Huh?
Waka
I want
waka.
to start talking about Batman and Robin because it's the worst thing that ever happened.
Hey, whatever you want to do, I want to push that moment off as long as I possibly
Well, no,
can.
I want to talk because it's a video game podcast and because they do specifically with an emphasis on old games. I'd like to ask you, and you and I, we've talked about video games a little bit when we talked about Wreck-It Ralph and when we
Yes.
talked about Scott Pilgrim vs. the World.
Yes.
I'm wondering what were the games for you that mattered the most? What were the video games that were really important to you? What kind of a gamer were you?
I am the kind of gamer that doesn't really. The games that I truly loved don't really exist anymore. The side-scrolling games like
You should
like
move to
Super Mario
Portland.
Brothers.
You should move to Portland. You're so hip.
Yeah, whatever. I was playing them before they were cool.
That's right. That's right.
I I don't mean it that way. I mean like
No, I'm totally messing with you. Totally messing with you.
Basically, Phil, I'm an old fart with like crazy grandpa thumbs who can't play the newfangled games. And when I say newfangled, I mean like any first-person shooter. I'm the guy who basically, if I were an actual soldier, I'd be like, why am I running around without shooting anyone?
Right.
I like Super Mario Brothers. I do like Castlevania. I like the.
You like games, the side-scrolling games where
yeah.
you're the guy running along. Me too. Me too.
Many of the
original.
Teenage Mutant- yes.
Pitfall. Remember Pitfall?
Nice.
It's
Nice.
literally just you running and jumping. It's
Yes.
fantastic.
Yes. Contra. One game that was super hard and I loved it.
Contra.
Do you remember the game Battletoads? Do you remember
Yes.
this game?
I don't remember, but yes, I remember it,
was-
but I don't remember playing it.
There was a level on it that was so hard I almost started stabbing people. I was like I can't even deal with how many times it's taken me. But wait, the other main kind of video game that I was really into was the pure RPG, the pure role-playing game, not what role-playing
What do we
games
mean
have
by that?
become, like Elder Scrolls Oblivion, where it's like you're actually like if there's a fight, you're actually fighting. I'm like it is the most boring possible way of doing it. It's like
What makes
push
it a
button.
role-playing game?
You role play the character, but it's not just like move to an enemy, kill it. It's you're wandering around, going through dungeons, things like that.
Okay. Okay.
Even more so than Legend of Zelda. Final Fantasy, Dragon Warrior, these are games
Sure.
that like you're just moving an icon, a sprite basically around on a map and you don't
Right.
see enemies, and then when you get attacked by an enemy, it's like the World War I version of fighting. Like two lines of enemies taking turns killing each other, basically.
Yeah.
And you have hit points, and there are magic spells, and you like specifically. I am thinking of the first Final Fantasy. That kind of blew the top of my head
Yes.
off. I was like, "This
Yes.
is so cool," and it depends on strategy and exploring things, and not
I had no interest in any of those things.
I can hit buttons
Yeah.
faster than.
That's
that.
what I care about. I care about
Sure.
mashing buttons. I never could play role-playing games very well. I had Legends of Zelda the original, and
Sure.
I couldn't bring myself to finish it.
Right. Ninja Gaiden.
Ninja Gaiden. I was thinking
Loved
that, and you jump and cut, jump and cut.
Yeah, so good, so good. And
Love
then
it.
there were the later games where you had like the ghost U's that would follow you around. And,
Yes.
Oh, duh.
Oh,
So much
Ninja
fun.
Gaiden, Contra, Kung Fu.
Nice.
My favorite game of all time. You ready for it?
Yeah.
Super Punch Out.
Love it.
I love
it.
Mike Tyson's Punch Out, and I still have my original Nintendo magazine before it was called Nintendo Power, with Mike
Nice.
Tyson on the cover from Mike Tyson's Punch Out. Still have it.
Nice. That's
It's got to
awesome.
be worth $5.
At least
At
$5.50.
least $5.50. I'm very excited about that, and I love Super. I have a friend named Matt that I would always go to his house, and he had Super Punch Out, and I would just go over to his house and play it. I just would play it. If I was at his house today, I would play Super Punch Out. That's what I would do. I love it so much, and I love Mike Tyson's Punch Out as well. I love in the arcade games. I love shooting games, but I don't love them at home. I don't think they ever perfected it. I don't think they ever did it as well. Duck Hunt does not. Do it. And I love Super Mario Brothers. I love all of them, even 2, which is really weird. But
Yeah.
3 and Super Mario Brothers 3 was like fascinating to me, blew my mind. And Super Mario Land.
I
Um,
saw The Wizard just to
yes,
see Super
the
Mario Bros.
power.
3.
I owned a Power Glove.
Awesome. Love
It
it.
was terrible.
I believe you.
Terrible.
I
Try
believe you.
landing a Top Gun plane with the Power Glove. It did not work. Stupid. Stupid. Um, and then when I got PS3 or PS2, I played a lot of Grand Theft Auto and a game called Metal Gear Solid 2. And you and I played Madden a lot. And
Yeah.
I always played, but no, I never was into sports, but I always played Tecmo Bowl,
Yep.
double dribble.
Yes. Yes.
And you do the like
Yes.
the chung 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 slam dunk. Um, and then when
Right.
I played Madden with you, I loved
Yeah.
it, loved it. So I'm a big fan of video games. Computer games like Doom. I went over to my friend's house and like I did with you, I went over to this house and I played Doom. And he's like, I'm gonna go to bed at his house. He's like, I'm gonna go to bed now. And I was like, okay.
All right. See you in the morning. Click, 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 click.
But I don't
click,
have
click,
it at
click.
home. What are you gonna do?
Right. I do want a special shout out to Mario Kart because
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't love racing games. Like, I don't play a lot of racing games. I didn't before, and I haven't since. I don't know why it is that, like, staring at the backside of Bowser and firing shells at people.
It's amazing.
I
Well, because
love
it's these characters that they did it just right, and they've done it wrong since then a couple times. But they created something where it was characters that you knew from growing up and cared about them
Yeah.
from other narratives, and so you had an opinion. Like I could never be Bowser for God's sake.
Totally. Totally.
So it
Absolutely.
actually implanted. You already had an idea like of the personalities. We need to mention
who was your
Street Fighter
character?
2. What?
Who was your? I apologize for interrupting. Who was
Guess.
your character in
Yes.
uh Yoshi?
Toad.
Nice. Well done. Well
Toad
done.
was my man always.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
I was a Luigi or Yoshi guy.
And I like Toad when I played Super Mario 2. Super Mario Brothers 2, you got to choose.
Yep.
And I always chose
Yep.
Toad. Because
Uh,
those were the choices. It was Mario, Luigi, Princess, and Toad, right?
Mario in Super Mario Bros. 2, yeah, those were your options. Tell me more. I interrupted you. You were talking about Street Fighter 2, which was a game.
I
that
mean, just you gotta. I mean, just that you gotta mention it.
Yeah,
And that was the height of like I actually learned how to do things that weren't mashing the keys. I actually learned how to do the moves.
sure.
And I remember playing Street Fighter 1 in the arcade at the Cinedome, which was the movie theater I went to where I saw Return of the Jedi for the first time. I remember playing Street Fighter 1, which was not very popular.
Right.
You could only be Ken, or if you were player 2, Ryu. And it was really hard. And then Street Fighter 2 was a huge deal. Then Mortal Kombat came out. Mortal Kombat's fine. Mortal Kombat is pretty amazing. But Street Fighter 2 is the template for that, and it's just
Yep.
phenomenal. We're not going to do a crossover where we watch the Street Fighter movie, so don't even freaking ask us.
Tyler, Dave, absolutely not. Can I? And again, this is at least partially me pushing off Batman and Robin as long as possible. Can I take a moment to discuss how I voiced a character in a video
You
game?
did!
And I totally forgot about it until just this moment.
Tyler and Dave, this is the next game for you to play, although it's not very old. I mean, I guess it's old now, but it's not Nintendo or Super Nintendo. Tell them about the game, Andy.
Yeah, it's out for only PlayStation 2 in America. It's King of Fighters 2006.
King of Fighter.
It has like a bunch of different names depending on which release it is and which country. I've seen like Maximum Impact 2. It is the King of Fighters 2006 game, and I was the Ken or the Ryu of that game for the release in America. It came with an anime that I voiced the character for in that, and it is the single most ridiculous thing I have ever done in my life. This is kind of fun. Each character, there's a taunt button, and well, first off, so when you play as that character and you're like, huh, oh, it sounds just like that, cause it's me. Like I wasn't
You don't
putting
have to
on
do
a
an
funny
impression
voice.
of it. That's actually who it is.
Yeah, that's right. I wasn't doing a funny voice or anything. They also have a taunt button, and I mean some of the taunts are like, I'm gonna kill you, and it's like really like macho or
Tell them the best one.
mine was my character would take a step back, wag my finger, and go, hey, quit goofing off. So I was basically the hall monitor of this video game. I was so lame, it is ridiculous. I had the power to engulf my hands in flame. Like I couldn't like shoot flame, but obviously if you get punched with someone with burning hands, it probably hurts you more, right?
Yeah.
And my catchphrase, which I think is what you were referring to, my catchphrase is, taste my flame.
Oh.
Internet, mock me. That's it.
Don't worry, Internet. I got it covered.
Oh, please do.
Here's my flame. I don't know if you know this, but I was actually in a video game kind of as well.
Do tell.
Okay, I will. So back in 2004, some buddies of mine and we made a movie. We made a film, which ended up not ever getting distributed nationally. I mean, you can find it on DVD and stuff, but you can't it was never at
In the
Sundance.
Right.
We got it to one of the a couple film festivals, but we never got distribution in any major way. So whatever, that's a whole other story. But in one scene, there's a boy and a girl who are falling in love, and they're playing a video game together. And I did all the sound effects for the video game. We recorded me doing a bunch of sound effects, and then they edited them together. And it was me doing my fake samurai voices. Like stuff like that, and then that was the thing. And so you can hear me like, and like making all these sounds effects in the background. The whole video game is me fighting me.
That is amazing. That is wonderful.
But, yours is an actual video game that is actually out there somewhere in the world. And I challenge you, Tyler and Dave, to play the Andy Roth video game. I challenge you and the rest of the world to taste Andy's flame. No, to taste Andy's flame.
Yes. If you're up for it, please taste my flame. We can't.
Batman and Robin, Andy.
We can't put it off any longer.
Batman and Robin. When I was first of all, they ask a question in their podcast about what their favorite incarnation of Batman is.
Okay.
So let's start with that. I want to ask you, what is your favorite incarnation of Batman?
Unquestionably, the Nolan films.
Okay.
I must immediately sort of discount my opinion because there are a number of really, really well thought of cartoons, Batman cartoons that have come out in the past, I guess, 15, 20 years, and I have seen none of them.
Right. Including ones they based video games on, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Continue.
I'm also not familiar with the comic book. Like I'm not. I mean, I know the basic story.
So we're really dealing here with Adam West
and the movies. Yes.
Michael Keaton, Val Kilmer, George Clooney, and Christian Bale. That's what we're really dealing with. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And while I have a deep, deep love for both of Burton's Batman movies, the unquestionable leader in the clubhouse are the Bale Nolan Batman films. How about you?
I have to go with Tim Burton's movies, and they're not as good as the Nolan movies by definition.
Sure.
But they are so ridiculously formative for my movie-going tastes.
Sure. Totally fair.
1989 Batman was my favorite movie for many, many years. Mm-hmm. And it was the first time, you know what it was, Andy? As far as I remember, it was the first time I knew who a filmmaker was.
Fascinating.
So Tim Burton is a guy who makes movies.
Right.
He was the first filmmaker that I identified as a filmmaker.
Interesting. Okay.
And so that was, and his visuals and all that stuff, it was very, the great thing, he was like live action dark Disney. And I grew up down the street from Disneyland, and it was like someone turned the Haunted Mansion into a real movie, not the crappy Eddie Murphy version. And it was really, really, it just resonated with someone like me. Like it went into the dark side, but not in a way that was safe.
Yeah. Fair. That's fair.
And whether that's good or bad, or says whatever that says about me. But and I loved Michael Keaton. I loved Beetlejuice. I loved Tim Burton. I loved Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah.
So it really tapped into that for me. It was the movie that introduced me to Jack Nicholson.
Nice.
That is, he's still my favorite actor, and so that's the thing for me, and that goes to, although I mean the Nolan movies are amazing, but that goes to what my problem with Batman and Robin is, which was, it's not that it was a terrible movie, although it was a terrible movie.
Thank you for that.
It was a terrible movie that was ostensibly a continuation of my favorite series.
Nice. Well said.
It wasn't like, if someone just made a bad Batman movie, I don't care that much.
Right.
If Batman Begins hadn't been very good, I would have been like, all right, I guess that's not good then.
Yeah.
But the fact that Batman and Batman Returns meant so much to me, and then Batman Forever happened, and I was like, oh God, what is this? And then Batman and Robin happened. It was like someone took a blowtorch to my soul.
Yeah.
It was like someone was trying to taste my flame.
I don't think anyone should ever have to taste anyone's flame if they don't want to.
No, fair enough. But I had to taste Joel Schumacher's, and it's terrible. It's
terrible.
How do we even start? Honestly, how do we start talking about Batman and Robin other than to say it completely destroyed what up to that point was the most profitable comic book franchise? It was more profitable than Superman.
Yep.
It was Batman 1 was a huge blockbuster. Batman 2 didn't do as well, but still did pretty well. Yep. Batman Forever, though terrible, actually made some money. And it was on the strength of Batman Forever that they made Batman and Robin. And Batman and Robin was so bad that they just stopped. And in fact, Joel Schumacher had a plan for a fifth one, which was going to be called Batman Triumphant.
There isn't a bit of me that wants to see that movie.
No, but I would love to know what he had in mind. I'm not going to lie.
Right?
Years later, years after the fact, crisis averted. It's like, well, what was the plan there?
Right. How are you supposed to feel when you realize that 20 years ago you dodged a bullet? How are you supposed to feel?
That's how I feel right now.
Yeah. So here's how I think we might start talking about it. Do you know what my single biggest problem structurally with Batman and Robin is?
Tell me.
You spend way too little time with Bruce Wayne.
I don't think you spend any time with Bruce Wayne.
He has 4 scenes, and they're not long ones. And it's George Clooney who gives you, I mean, it's certainly not his best acting performance, but he's never less than solid. I mean, he's fine, and he's not a bad fighter
he's George Clooney.
Yeah, he's George Clooney, and you're done. That says it all. But thematically, Bruce Wayne is so important to Batman, and that sounds like an obvious statement.
Well, that's because he is Batman.
Right, it sounds like an obvious statement, but Joel Schumacher didn't get the memo, right?
There is literally zero character development in this film.
Zero.
For any of the characters. With the possible exception of Alfred?
Okay. Viewers, It's so infuriating. It's so
angry.
Everything about this movie is infuriating. When I choked this movie down, and I was talking about it with Phil a few days ago, I actually had the thought, maybe I will watch it again in 15-second increments, and I will just jot down notes. I said to Phil, maybe I'll just list everything that is ridiculous about this movie, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't stomach the thought.
We wouldn't have time to do the podcast. You'd still be on minute 2. You'd be on the second minute. Since the first minute is just pictures, close-ups of their butts in their uniform.
There's so much butt
the uniform
and cod
actually
piece.
has a butt crack.
There is so much cod piece in this movie.
And nipples.
It is ridiculous. Yes.
Why does Batman? My wife was like, I don't. Is it supposed to be like this? Why is it like this?
The single most ridiculous thing in the most ridiculous movie I've ever seen.
I'm ready for this.
So, this is the movie that introduces Batgirl. Okay?
Yeah.
Played by Alicia Silverstone.
Oh, yes.
who plays, and I don't know the continuity from the comics, but in this she is Alfred's niece. Okay,
Yes.
so she comes to stay, and there is ample opportunity for her to learn about Bruce versus Batman, Dick Grayson versus Robin, Alfred versus the guy who makes it all run. Like, there's ample opportunity for her to learn about this in a way that doesn't make zero sense. Instead, Schumacher chooses the interesting path of having it make zero sense. I forget already, it's been less than a week since I've seen the movie, how she discovers it, but it's like, but she then just like goes down to the back.
Alfred's just like, go to this room.
And then when she gets there, she powers up a computer, and he says, I thought you might find your way in here, so I downloaded my brainwaves. And if it's not brainwaves, it's something very similar. That is what he's saying. It is absurd to the absurd degree.
This is the most poorly written film I have.
Terrible.
It's so bad.
Also,
it's 2 hours long.
Oh, why is it 2 hours long? Also, in addition to downloading his brain on a computer that she may or may not ever see, he has also fashioned the Batgirl outfit for her. It is, I can't.
Which leads to this.
My goodness.
Which leads to the, based on the way that outfit looks, leads to the terrifying conclusion that he knows his niece's cup size.
You're absolutely right.
Makes me very uncomfortable, by the way.
Extremely uncomfortable. Extremely uncomfortable.
Okay, here's the deal. And the guy who wrote it, Akiva Goldsman, has written some really good things and some really bad things. In my opinion, more bad than good, frankly. Actually, when I really look at this, when I look at the list, way more bad than good. But he has this good reputation for some reason. I mean, he wrote Cinderella Man, which I think is really good, and A Beautiful Mind, which is really good. He also wrote Lost in Space.
Wait, did he win his Oscars for Cinderella Man or Beautiful Mind?
A Beautiful Mind. I think he won for Beautiful Mind.
Terrible.
He wrote. I'll go back to saying this out loud. He wrote Lost in Space.
I'm trying not to hear that because I never want that movie to enter my consciousness.
He wrote I, Robot and I Am Legend.
Oh, good. Two of the worst adaptations from the source material I've ever seen.
Also, he wrote Lost in Space.
Also, I hate you.
This movie was 125 minutes long. It was 2 hours and 5 minutes of god-awfulness.
Oh,
you know what
terrible.
I'd really like to do? Here's what I'm going to... Nothing makes sense in this freaking movie!
Zero things make sense.
Tell everybody about the line. Tell everybody about the line with they have the magnifying glass.
Oh, right. Right. Okay, so...
tell them about the line.
Normally, when Phil and I talk about movies not making sense, what we mean is in a cinematic way. Like, oh, that's a plot hole. Or, oh, this doesn't make sense on a reality and scientific level. So, in a movie, we haven't actually said this yet, in a movie where the bad guys are Poison Ivy and Mr. Freeze, you will not be surprised to learn that at one point, most of Gotham is frozen. Right? Yeah. There is a telescope that this movie revolves around, at least in part, an observatory with a telescope that is designed not to look at the stars.
No.
It is basically what it is. It's a telescope pointing up and then a bunch of orbiting mirrors so that the telescope can be aimed at those mirrors and see other things on Earth. Because what you need a telescope for is something else on the planet that we humans currently inhabit.
Right.
It just... Okay, so that doesn't make sense already, right? But this would be the tiny spark of ingenuity, right? What, like, every terrible little child on the playground learns, with a magnifying glass, you can kill ants because it makes things hotter. It focuses light. So they hit upon the idea of turning the mirrors around to focus all back and warm...
To thaw out Gotham.
Thaw out Gotham,
Which actually, if you're not careful, just melt and burn and destroy Gotham.
It's true.
But whatevs.
Right. Fine. It's a comic book movie. My suspension of disbelief will carry me that far.
Intact.
So
Tell
far.
them about the line. Wait, Andy, when they get to the telescope, is it daytime or nighttime?
It is nighttime.
Oh no, it's nighttime in Gotham, so they can't use those mirrors, or so they can't use those mirrors to shine the sun down. Wait, what are they going to do?
Well, you may or may not know this, but the Earth rotates. So
Say more about this.
when it is dark in one place,
Yes.
it is light in another.
See, I have a problem with this because I've read the Bible, and so I know that the Earth stands still, and then the sun starts in one side and goes all the way down to where it sleeps at night.
Fair enough. Where Apollo's chariot slumbers for the evening. So, and again, that's actually kind of a fun. It's certainly not as ridiculous as Superman turning back time by flying around really quick.
No.
So, however, the line, and I apologize for I'm not being able to do it verbatim, but what they talk about is they say we can use it to deflect the light from the other side of the equator.
Oh God.
Now, I'm no scientist, okay? But if you're deflecting light from the other side of the equator, that has exactly zero to do with changing it from nighttime to daytime.
It's still nighttime on the other side of the equator from us people.
Still nighttime. Still nighttime. I don't understand why they don't get the difference between latitude and longitude, between, frankly, up and down, or north, south, east, and west as it pertains to the globe. But while that is the most ridiculous thing, no, it's not. The Alfred thing, downloading his brainwaves, is the most. That is not the most ridiculous thing in the movie. Alfred's thing is. So, not realizing how nighttime and daytime work only clocks in at number 2 on the list of most ridiculous
There's
things.
so many dumb things. Guys, honestly, if we just sat here and talked about stupid things, the fact that they had ice skating blades on the bottom of their boots.
Oh.
Everything. Here's the thing. Everything about the relationship between Batman and Robin. They hate each other.
Hate.
They don't like each other for the entirety of the movie. It's not a buddy cop movie.
Right.
They don't even. There's no enjoyment.
And then the reconciliation is completely unearned.
I have an idea.
Okay.
We are so good at talking about things that we love about movies rather than things that we hate.
Okay.
I consider it to be the worst movie ever made.
Okay.
Can we talk about things that we liked about this movie? Is there any unironic way to talk about the things that we liked in this movie?
God, Phil, I don't know.
Okay, I have a couple things.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah, I guess. I want to know what you loved.
I loved Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy. The character was terrible. I thought she did a lovely job. Her job of being the most, like, to be someone who is unconventionally and confusingly just absolutely captivating. As you said, she didn't need special pollen to do that, which she does. She like blows this pollen on people, and then they find her attractive. No, she's Uma Thurman wearing green spandex. I think we're all in on this. I think we're all on the same level here, people.
That's well said. That's well said.
Glorious, just absolutely stunningly beautiful. Here's another thing. I think Mr. Freeze looked awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Bald Schwarzenegger painted completely silver with silver contact lenses.
Yeah.
And his outfit and everything, and smoking the frozen cigar. He looked perfect.
It's true. That's true.
I'd go so far as to say if I were to cast this movie with these characters all over again, I think they cast it really well. I mean, you can't blame them for. I mean, Alicia Silverstone is Batgirl in 1997.
Makes total sense. Yes, totally.
Totally adorable.
And Chris O'Donnell is Robin. George Clooney is Batman. Yes,
Perfect.
yes.
Perfect.
The casting.
Movie is perfectly cast and terribly done.
Terribly done.
I would almost love to do the same movie with the same cast and even the same bad guys, and then except have it make any sense at all.
Different script. Maybe a different script.
Different director. I have deep loathing
Indeed.
for Joel Schumacher in general.
I apologize because I agree with you. One of my favorite things about our podcast is that we talk about stuff that we love. but I can't find anything.
Yeah.
And I have to talk about something that annoys me more now than it did then, because while I do not read the comics, I did not know the character of Bane. And I did some research for Bane on Bane as The Dark Knight Rises was shooting, and as we knew that Bane would be involved. And he is a fascinating character. He is not only unbelievably strong and hulking and physically dangerous, he is also a genius.
Yeah.
And they have basically turned him. There's no non-offensive way to talk about what they turned him into. He is severely developmentally disabled, shall we say?
I mean, really to the degree of subhumanity. I mean, he's a subhuman.
I agree with you. They make him something subhuman, and they make him. he is ridiculous in the truest sense of the word. There's no way not to ridicule.
He's not even scary.
No, not at all. They give him the dialogue. They give him, Phil, tell me to do anything or say a sentence.
Andy, could you? There's a bottle of champagne behind you. What's the deal with that champagne?
Champagne.
Seriously, though, I want that champagne.
No, you're not getting that champagne. There is a scene where he is planting bombs, which look like. Do you guys remember light brights? Those things you would poke through the hole, and it would light up, and it would be like a picture of like a clown.
Can I interrupt you?
Please.
Because I want to say something about this. I want to imagine, picture this. You're a filmmaker, and you've decided to make bombs that look nothing like bombs. So you have to figure out how to make your audience know that these bombs that look nothing like bombs are bombs. What do? Do you write some clever dialogue? Do you make sure that there's some setup at all? No. You have Bane go like this. Bomb! Bomb!
Bomb!
As he plants it. It's the worst. It's the worst.
He plants 5 bombs and says the word bomb 5 times.
I don't remember what happens to him in the movie. That's how much I don't care.
He deflates like a balloon when they unhook. I know. Let it out, man. Let it out. I know. It's so bad. It's so bad.
Uma Thurman is so good. And Arnold Schwarzenegger is not good, but it's not his fault. He's like Good Will Hunting. It's not his fault.
It's not his fault. It's not your fault.
It's not his fault.
I liked the 2 scientists who were hanging on to the telescope and quipping, like being punched.
Here we go again.
It's like you're about to. There is no basis. Every time anyone who is listening to or watching this podcast, anytime in any of your lives that you have ever heard anyone say anything bad about a comic book movie, that is represented in this movie.
Yes. They try to give him a love interest, and it's Elle Macpherson, and there's nothing there.
Nothing there.
If you want to talk about the romantic subplot seemed tacked on. Yeah,
Elle Macpherson's given nothing to do, and it is completely tacked on.
It's a totally tacked on subplot, romantic subplot. On Dave and Tyler's show, they make a joke. It was really funny. They make a joke with each other about polyamory, and they're not. And what's really funny is it made me, even though it had nothing to do with what we were talking about, it made me realize polyamorous is exactly how you describe Robin. Robin is completely and totally and utterly in love with Batgirl, but also with Poison Ivy, and neither of those is explored in any way, shape, or form.
Yes.
Other than him looking at them going...
Agreed.
I don't think Chris O'Donnell's a bad actor. He is terrible in this film.
He's terrible in this film.
The Batmobile looks terrible. Just terrible. The bat everything.
Yes.
I'm done. I'm out.
We gotta... I wanna wrap up by saying something nice about Tyler and Dave. Because that's the closest thing I can do to saying something nice about this movie. in their podcast, releasing today,
Right.
along
We
with
will link
ours.
to it. We will link to it.
Yes. They mention chess because they mention chess, and they not only reference war games, but the Seventh Seal, which we've talked about. That's where the famous Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey used it, playing chess with death. Well done, guys, for video game guys, pulling up in the space of a breath both the Seventh Seal and war games.
Yeah.
Bona fides assured. Well done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to say something nice about Tyler and Dave.
Yeah.
God loves everybody, I guess.
Yeah, agreed. I'll follow up the nice thing I said with, if you ever see a movie of this ilk again, I will find you and I will put a hurting on you.
They live within driving distance of you, Andy. They live within driving distance. You can make it happen.
Oh. I am a tiny, ineffectual person, and I will put a hurting on you.
He will make you taste his flame, people.
Taste my flame!
Quit fooling around.
Quit fooling around. Quit goofing off. I actually don't remember which one. It's one of those.
doesn't really
Either
matter.
quit fooling around or quit goofing off.
Tyler and Dave play old games. It's tadpog.com. TADPOG.com. Phenomenal. Their website's really well done. Again, the video games they talk about, I don't even know any of the games, and I have fun listening to them. That's the best part.
They could have a terrible podcast, and it would still be miles better than Batman and Robin. The bonus for you, Second Breakfast Nation, is that their podcast is actually amazing.
I hope that you all enjoy it, and I hope that you never see Batman and Robin if you have. And I hope that we get to work together in the future. And I hope they play a terrible game that's based on a movie that we liked.
Indeed. I like this Goonies idea. I think we're going to run with that.
Gauntlet thrown.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to sign off, because otherwise we're just going to start weeping openly at the horribleness of the movie that we watched. This has been another Second Breakfast podcast. I'm Andy Roth, alongside Phil Duvall. We'll see you.
Everybody cool down.
No.
Ice to see you.
No.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Chill out.